questions. People ask me, Carl, why is it so big? And it's just module 1 was really introductory, so you guys can get a feel for the platform. You can get a feel for how the process will run. Module 2 is where we start delving a little deeper and we start really applying principles and practices, and we get deeper into it. Module 2 is also where you're required to do referencing, and there will be a mark allocated to referencing, so keep that in mind. There's a video on the platform that will show you how to do citations. And then finally, I'd like to say that you guys must appreciate the fact that there is big, challenging assignments, because it adds credibility to the qualification. Okay, if everything was really easy to do, then it discredits the qualification. It's of no value if everyone can get this, so you want something that is desirable. And if it's a challenge, then even better. Okay, so when you see a challenging assignment, see it as an opportunity to prove yourself, to prove your capabilities. Okay. Do you have any questions before I kickstart the session?
Good morning, Mr. Carl. Tebogo, I'm belonging to that group, but as I indicated, I've missed quite a lot, so I'm just here to catch up with you. Thank you.
Brilliant. Welcome to Tebogo. Okay. So I see our numbers are still climbing. Okay, this is really good. I'm just gonna, greet some colleagues here. I see that we have Charisse. Good morning, Charisse. Good morning, Silly. Good morning,
Good
Make.
morning.
Morning, Sir Charisse. Let me just see. Okay.
Okay, good morning, Carl.
Hi, Make. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good, good.
Good.
How did you find the first submission? Just out of curiosity.
And no, I did submit. It was fine, but I made a mistake on my project, and then I rectified it.
Okay, it's good. Good, good, good. I'm happy to hear that. I must admit, I've been really happy with the submission rates. I know that some of our colleagues have been a little late, but regardless of that, like, you guys have really pushed to make the submissions. It's really inspiring to see that, because I know that online learning is not, it's a new space for a lot of us. So I'm really happy to see that we are pushing and performing. Okay. I'm going to jump into module 2. I think we've given it enough time for all the colleagues to join. I just want to also ask that the coordinators, can you guys just post the link for the register in the chats for me? Please just assist with that. Maybe just keep posting it throughout the session. So maybe every 15 minutes you can do that. You can just quickly post the link. Okay, so for those who don't know, we have to complete a register to document and keep record of the attendance. So please make sure that you've completed that before the session ends. I mean, you're welcome to do it after the session, but it is ideal that we get it done, and don't leave it unanswered, because it's very important. We use that to keep record of class attendance. Okay. So without any further ado, I'm going to hop into module 2. It is a big one, and I tried to cover as much of the concept, as much of the content as possible in the short duration we have. So just a little bit of an agenda for today. Today, we will be looking at the following unit standards. So the first one is presenting a well-structured argument derived from qualitative and or quantitative data to map new knowledge and generate a competitive advantage. Okay, it's very important that we start learning the terminology. So we're going to delve into what is qualitative and what is quantitative, and then we're also going to touch on building a well-structured argument. And I'm really going to lay in on what a well-structured argument would look like. Okay, and then we'll look at conducting an organizational analysis, and to be more specific, we'll be looking at gap analysis and different tools in that space. Then we'll talk about developing an implementation plan in a business. So now, in the context of the questions and of this, some of the modules, they ask for a business plan, and in essence, what they mean is an implementation plan. So just note that as you answer some of the questions, it is something that I will rectify on the material going forward. It's not something that we did because I mean, in essence, some of the qualifications are going to change because of the QCTO. So that sort of thing is happening. So we've kind of, we haven't made any major modifications to material. So unfortunately, it says provide a business plan, but they mean a business implementation plan. And you'll see that I explain it and explore it in that context. Okay, so let's jump into the first module. So module 2.1, it says structuring an argument. That's the first thing we're going to start with. Then we're going to talk about the different types of data. We'll talk about sampling and sampling methods. We'll talk about literature surveys. We'll talk about credible sources in research. We'll talk about credibility criteria for the sources. And then we'll talk about why data is important to business. And I have a few anecdotes to share with you along the way. But let's delve into the argument part. So um, structuring an argument. Structuring a strong argument involves presenting a clear thesis statement. So remember, you're always going to start your argument with the thesis statement. And if you ask me, Carl, what is a thesis statement? It's a statement of belief. It tells me what you're arguing for, where you land on the scale of things. Are you for or against something? And kindly note that when you build an argument, especially in the academic context, you're either trying to confirm a theory or you're trying to develop a new theory. And that will play into the types of data we collect. And you'll see that will pop up again. But it's very important that when you build an argument, that you build upon each point. So think about it like building a wall. You start with the first layer, and then you make sure that that layer is solid, and that layer is built off of the foundation. So your foundation's strong, first layer is good. Then you start layering the second layer, then you have the third layer, and so on. And just by doing it that way, you can make sure that your argument is strongly linked and that it has a strong foundation to it. Okay. Another great tool that good arguers do, or people that debate often, they always deal with counter arguments. So whenever you're trying to make a point, whenever you're trying to argue a point, there's going to be many counter arguments. If you can refute a counter argument before it's brought up, you can kind of defuse that. So it's very important to strengthen your argument by addressing counter arguments. Okay. And then finally, a strong argument has a good conclusion. The conclusion will restate the thesis and it summarizes the key points you have. And then also, it's very important to ensure that you have clarity, consistency, careful revision. All of these are crucial components of building an argument. And in the academic space, it's even more important. You'll see that academic arguments are presented over lengthy documents. Sometimes they'll go to about 60, 70 pages just to present a single argument. Okay. It's very important to use persuasive devices. So depending on the context, depending who or what kind of argument you're building, you're going to use some of these. So I'll give you some examples. So if we're in the marketing space, we'll play with the pronouns a bit. So remember, in English we have pronouns. The pronouns are the words such as I, you, me, we. And typically when you use things such as you, you're separating yourself from the audience. But when we use words such as we will stand together, we will conquer this, we will do that. It shows unity. It shows that we're a collection, we're working together. And that's just one example of using a persuasive technique. Okay, then we have emotive language. So emotive language is often used to hook an audience's feelings about a topic. It's often used by PETA, when it comes to animal abuse. They'll often show you a video of a poor animal being harmed or whatever, and that's used to hook you. And that's emotive imagery, but they do it with language too. Okay, then we have rhetorical questions. Rhetorical questions are asked they're asked, but you're not really supposed to answer them, because there is no real answer. I mean, there is an obvious answer, but you don't have to answer it. Okay, and that's what a rhetorical question is. It's often asked by presenters, politicians, some people who do adverts that they use rhetorical questions. Have you ever seen those adverts where they say things such as like, tired of spending so much on your insurance? That's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer it, but it's asked. Okay. Then we have stats and facts. So if I said to you guys that 80% of communication within the workplace is improved by the use of emojis in that communication. Okay, that's me using a statistic. And how many of you guys believe what I just said? Just give me a show of hands if you believe what that stat. If I said to you 80% of office communication is improved by the use of an emoji. Do you guys think that's true? Okay. I see. So we have 3 people. Okay. So let me tell you, that's absolutely not true. I just made it up now. Okay. So don't buy into that. A lot of guys provide stats and facts that's not true. And the point I'm making is we use it to win people over, but it's not necessarily true. And it's a little trick I learned in high school. So my English teacher always told me you can put stats in, the marker never has time to check. And apparently so does everyone else. Everyone else doesn't have time to check. But we can use stats and facts to win people over. Now, in your context, if you provide a statistical fact and you haven't cited it or you haven't referenced it, I can mark you down because it's an academic context and I have to check these things. But if we're doing it in any other kind of context, if we're creating promotional content, and some statistics, some fact, bring it in. It will help you strengthen your argument. Okay. Use of experts' opinions, experts' quotes, those are really good. They really help strengthen an argument. They show that you've done your research. Then we have anecdotes. So anecdotes are short supporting stories. I absolutely love anecdotes. I use anecdotes a lot when I do my presentations, when I do my talks. So every time I'm alluding to my personal studies or I'm talking about my English teacher in high school, that is a short little story that supports my discussion around these topics. Okay, then we have descriptive and figurative language. So descriptive and figurative language, and also the exaggeration, rule of 3, and then also hyperbole. All of these fall into advertising. They use it in marketing campaigns. It's not often used in research or academic context, but it does help if you know how to apply them effectively and efficiently. Okay, so descriptive language would include things such as adjectives, metaphors, I want to say similes. There's so many different components in that space. Exaggeration, or otherwise known as hyperbole, is just making things seem better or worse than what they really are. Rule of 3 or triad is when you cluster elements together. So it's when we say things such as, I will be tackling health, education, and social development. That's a rule of 3. That's a triad. You'll see that's used a lot in political speeches. And then repetition. So if you think about American politics, they use repetition a lot. So the one that was used a lot in I think it was 2017, 2018, was MAGA, Make America Great Again. Donald Trump kept saying it again and again and again until it's stuck in people's minds. Okay, so these are some persuasive devices. There are many more. I'm just, touching the tip of that surface, or the tip of that iceberg, I should say. Let's keep going. Okay, so components of a strong argument. So remember, I started our discussion off with the clear thesis statement. So you want to start off by stating what you're arguing for. And then you want to support what you've said with relevant and credible sources. We'll talk about relevant and credible sources in the next few slides. You want to have logical reasoning. So remember, if you build it and you layer it the same way you build a wall, then you'll have a very good, strong argument. Okay. Then you want to have acknowledgements and refutation of counter arguments. So don't leave counter arguments unanswered, okay? Because then it will come back and bite you. You must make sure that you're dealing with the naysayers. Okay, and then finally, you must have a compelling conclusion. Very important that your conclusion leaves people who've read or heard you talk about your topic wanting more. That's very important. So long after they've heard you or read your paper, they must be thinking about what you said. If you've done that, then you've done it really well. Okay. Now, I want to talk about data types. So in the space of research, and I think, fortunately for you guys, I talk about research a lot. It's one of the modules I lecture for BCom students, and also a few lower level research classes I do. But in the space of research, we have 2 different types of data, and this is well known. The first is primary data, and the second is secondary data. Okay, primary data is data that we've gone out and we've collected ourselves. We have full control over that data. It's our data to amend it, adjust it, to play around with it as we see fit. Okay, and collecting this data could be done via means of polls. It could be done a survey, a questionnaire, It could be done by interviewing people. There are many different ways we can collect primary data, but as long as you're physically going out and collecting the data yourself, or you're sending out your tool to collect the data, then you've done it yourself. It's all good. Okay. Secondary data is data that belongs to other people, but we adjust our study to fit into the secondary data. This data could come from online sources, so it could be like the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. It could be any of the data producing websites. So Stats SA is a good place to go. It could be reading newspaper articles. It could be reading journal articles where other people have published papers. It could be going to the library and using academic books or those textbooks. It could be speaking to other people who've done research in a space that you're asking for their data. It could be something that's related to a project you've worked on. Okay, I'll give you guys an example. So my dissertation is built off of a project we did at work. So the data is secondary because it belonged to the client, but the client gave me permission to use it. So I've received the data, I'm writing the dissertation, nearly done with it. But using secondary data made it even more difficult because I had to adjust my study to fit into what they provided me with. Okay, so that's just the different data types. Now we delve a little deeper and we're gonna get more specific about the data type. So we're gonna look at quantitative and qualitative. So when you think quantitative, think about quantity. So think numbers. Okay. When you think qualitative, think quality. So when we talk about quality, quality is always going to be a subjective experience. It's you can put it on a scale, but it's all going to be up to interpretation and how the interpreter feels about that given concept. So think about it like this: if I go to like a beachy area where they sell ice cream, and I start interviewing the people who've bought the ice cream, and I say, "Hey, which is your favorite flavor?" That is always going to be a subjective experience, and that will always be a qualitative kind of data collection. Okay, then we have quantitative, which is very numbers based. So think about trying to put things on a scale. Think about trying to measure. Think about numbers, percentages, that sort of thing. Okay, the key difference between these two types of data is that they provide you with different insights. So your quantitative will talk about concrete evidence and it's very objective. So you have objectives and you're ticking off those boxes. And in quantitative, you're trying to either prove or disprove a theory. Okay. And then in qualitative, you'll have more abstract opinions. And you'll get interview data and you'll have to do thematic analysis of the interview data you've received. It's going to be a lot more subjective. Okay. The quantitative and qualitative key difference is also that quantitative is objective, qualitative is very subjective. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, Carl, why would subjective opinion be important for research? Subjective opinion is very important for research because we have, research plays a major role in the development of society. Okay, and it will kind of lead to the next slide where I want to show you a video about how a qualitative research has had a major impact on society. Okay. Now, when we do quantitative research, we're going to ask questions such as how much, how many, we're looking at quantities. Everything's going to be numbers based. And you can even take qualitative research and you convert it to a number-based approach. It's been done, and I've seen people do it. It works. Okay. Qualitative is going to be asking people why, what, how to fix, and that sort of thing. Okay. I see we have a hand, Naledi. Please talk to me. What's happening? Naledi? Okay, so now I'm going to go into the next video. And before I play the video for you guys, I just want to give you a bit of background on the study. Okay, so this is a study that was conducted in both America and Italy. The one that I have was from Italy. Okay, and it's a very important test that was done with children, young kids. Okay, the study well, maybe I shouldn't talk to the study and I'll ask you guys what you think about what I'm showing you. Now, but before I play, don't think that what is being presented is actually really about race. So you just don't think about it as that. Just think about what how children perceive themselves, and that will come to the forefront in this study. And it has had a major impact on society. I'll explain that when we, when we finish the video off. So let me just adjust my settings so the sound plays, and then you guys can watch the video. You can let me know what you think. Okay.
Quale bambola è bianca? Quale bambola è nera? Quale delle due è bella?
Questa.
Qual è quella bella? Qual è quella brutta? E qual è quella buona? Quale è cattiva? Qual è buona?
Lei.
Perché è buona?
Perché ha gli occhi celesti.
Quale è cattiva? Perché è cattiva?
Perché è tutto nero.
E qual è la bambola che ti somiglia di più? Quale bambola è nera?
Mi ha offeso. Tu. Perché mi hai chiamato nero?
Okay, so I just want to ask you guys, what do you think about the video I just showed you? I think about it because remember, these are young, innocent children. If we asked adults these questions, you'd get a very different result because adults they have, I want to say they have barriers. They have a lot of, they're a lot more controlled and contained. Children are a lot more honest, innocently honest. Okay, what do you guys think about the video? Any questions, any thoughts, any opinions? Okay, I see that it's nobody wants to talk about it. Okay, go for it. Marco?
Yeah, what I've depicted from this video is that the black children
Mm.
raised their views that the white doll is pretty, but at the end, when they thought of when the question of which one of the two dolls looks like them, they felt that whoever was asking these questions was actually saying to them they are not pretty, but they are bad because they are black. Thank you.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I don't think that the researcher had any ill intent, and they're not trying to depict the children as, bad or ugly in any way. The study is all about how the children view themselves, and how they view race. And the problem that they've identified with the study is that children are not being represented effectively. I want to say children of different races are not being represented effectively, and that shows through in studies like this. So this was done in 2006, and the original study was done in the 1940s in America. And it's interesting because they did it in two different places, but they got the same or similar results. And what has come as a result of the study is they've now made an extra effort to ensure that children are equally or as equally represented as possible in toys, in media, on TV shows, that sort of thing. They want to make sure that every kid has some sort of idol or role model they can look up to that is of their race, has something similar to them, so that when you actually conduct these studies, you'll get you get better results. And this is all about early childhood development. So, if these children believe this at a young age, what kind of adults will they be later in life? That kind of thing is also very important. Okay, the other key thing I want to point out about this study is that it's never been done in South Africa. And one of my colleagues and I were talking about the study, and we were kind of curious to see what kind of results we'd get in the South African context. I personally think we'd get better results in the South African context because I think that, especially nowadays, I think that young Black kids are better represented than what they have been in the past. And that kind of thing would show up in studies like this. If you guys think I'm wrong or if you disagree with me in this, I'd like you to, share your opinion. Yeah, I know that race is a hot topic, but if you don't have discussions about it, how do we really learn from each other? Don't feel like it's ever going to be an attack on anyone or any of that nature. It's really, it's very good that we point out these things so that as a society we can remedy it. Okay. Other studies have shown that children who play with a wider range of toys, regardless of race, are more likely to get along with a wider range of people as adults. There's even studies that show that children who actually garden, who do gardening, are more likely to be leaders in the world. And this was a study they did interviewing a bunch of leaders, and they found that a lot of them have this common thread, and it's gardening when they were kids. Interesting, yeah? Very interesting. So what I wanted to show you is that while numbers is great for research, qualitative research also has a major impact on society. Okay, this research is a part of the reason why when you walk down the toys aisle where the kids buy their toys and stuff, you'll see that now there is a white doll, a black doll, an Indian doll, because they're trying to cover all their bases. They're not trying to make it is a money thing also, but they're also trying to make sure that every kid is included. And then also, if you think about movies and stuff, now we have a lot more diverse range. People are not being typecast because of their race, and it's really awesome to see. Okay, so if we don't have any comments, anything else we want to say about this, I'm just going to move on. Okay. Cool. If you guys want to talk about it later, also, I'm welcome. You're welcome to share any thoughts and opinions. Okay, let's keep going. Now, I want to talk about sampling. So when we do research, we're trying to get the best idea of, of what's happening in a particular scenario or a particular context. And in some cases, it's very difficult to sample or to get information from an entire population. So what we do instead is we go and we select a particular sample to represent that larger population. Now, sampling is such an important component of research because because it actually it can affect the outcome of the research if it's not done properly. Okay, so what I want to say in this space is you need to think about your population as a think about your population as a cake, okay, a chocolate cake, for example, okay. Um, we're not going to be able to get the full cake. Imagine if I gave you a full cake and I said, eat the whole cake to tell me what it tastes like. It's not going to work. I mean, people can, but I wouldn't recommend it. Okay, it's too much calories. But you can also just eat a slice of the cake and really still get an idea in terms of what the tastes are, in terms of what the flavors are. And we have a similar approach to doing research. So if imagine if I wanted to do a study in South Africa. South Africa has what? I think it's 60, 70 million people living in the country. And if I wanted to do a survey on all of the people, I wouldn't be able to because it's not viable. How do I reach all the people? Okay, how do I manage the data? And at some point, collecting the data becomes pointless because a small percentage would represent the group. So if you collected all the data from 70 million people, you'd notice a common trend, and that trend would become more prevalent as the data comes in. So you'll see that it becomes more prevalent as more data comes. So at some point, collecting the data becomes pointless because you're getting the same kind of findings. So there's no point. Okay, so what you want to do when you do sampling is you want to get a good slice of the population. You want to get a good slice of your research population. Okay, and when I say that, I mean, don't just take the icing, because if you just took the icing, then you're not really getting a full taste of what's happening. You know, you're not really getting an idea of what's happening. You're getting the full flavor of that scenario problem population. Okay, so that's sampling. There are many different strategies we can apply, you know, in the space of sampling. So you'll see that I've provided 4, just to give you an idea. There are more than this, many others, but I'm going to give you 4 of the well-known ones. So the first one is convenience. So it's sampling out of convenience. So what you'll do is you'll survey or interview people, or whatever kind of approach you're doing. You would go to the people that are easiest to connect to. So imagine if you worked in an office and you just, out of convenience, you gave it to the first 3 people that walk in through the door, that kind of thing. It's really up to chance. There's no real rigging. There's no real limitation or boundary on who you will use in the research, but it's all done out of convenience. Okay. Then we have voluntary response sampling. So you send it out and people can choose whether they want to. You know, if they don't want, it's perfectly fine, but that's voluntary sampling. Then we have purposive sampling. So you set criteria for who can participate in the study, and if they meet the criteria, then they can partake. Okay. Now think about that, the doll experiment. That was an academic research. It's not something that was just done for the fun of it. They had to do sampling strategies in there, and they did a mix of purposive and voluntary. Okay, because it was research with minors, with children. You can't just go and start talking to children for research purposes. It's highly unethical. So what you have to do is you would literally get permission from their parents to do that study. So you have to have a legal guardian sign off on that particular research, using that kid in that study. Okay. But it was also purposive because they obviously wanted to speak to specific children. They didn't, if they just spoke to a group of white children, they wouldn't have gotten the results. They wouldn't have gotten the feedback they're really looking for, because their study was about how young Black children viewed themselves. And then they were going to take their findings to make societal improvements and recommendations for societal improvements. Okay. Marco, hands up.
Can I check with you? Where
Yeah.
will we? Can I just give you a small scenario quickly?
Yeah, of course.
If you are a moderator, you have a batch of work of students, and then out of that work, you sample the lowest mark, the middle, and the highest, and then you moderate 10% of that, which will be 6. Where will we locate it? Is it statistical sampling? How do we locate it?
Oh, so what kind of sampling would that be?
Yes.
I think that would be because it is purposive. You're looking at the higher, middle, and lower band students. So there's some sort of purpose. It's aligned with that purpose. I mean, at the Information Rooms organization, we don't really align our moderation with higher band, lower band, middle band students. We just take 25% of the portfolios. And I mean, if it's less than 20, then we'll take 20. So if it's less than 20 students, you have to moderate all of them. Okay, but if it's more than 20, then you can take 25% of the portfolios, and then you randomly select which ones you take, so that you're not, you don't have any bias in the moderation process. That's just how we do it internally. But what you're talking about is more purposive. So what we do is random sampling. So we get a random sample of the student's performance. Yours would be purposive. Okay, so you have key criteria that students have to be before you moderate them. Does that make sense? But yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I think I understand.
Okay, brilliant. Actually, I like that you brought that up, because a lot of us work in that space of moderation, assessment. So then, yeah, that's where that would come to the forefront. It is a great way. In essence, what you're doing as a moderator, you are trying to confirm what the assessor said, and you're trying to confirm what the facilitator said. And a great way of confirming this is by getting a sample. And if we applied that in research, you're trying to confirm a theory. So the theory is that all 20 learners are competent. So then you get a sample to, or let's just say all 30. All 30 learners are competent. That's the theory. And then you get a sample of 25% and you confirm the theory by doing your moderation. Okay, Dimakatso is asking how to sign the register. So guys, if you can just assist her in the chats, that would be great. I'm talking to the conveners. Okay, so let's talk about literature surveys. So literature surveys are, it's in essence, it's actually the same thing as a literature review, but because this the unit standard says literature survey, we had to literally keep that terminology. I couldn't change it because of the unit standard. But just know that a literature survey is the same thing as a literature review. And if you don't know what either is, a literature survey is a comprehensive study that summarizes existing research. So we're literally going out and looking at a body of knowledge, and we're trying to see what other researchers, what other academics, what other experts have said about this topic or this theory. And the whole idea is to try and identify key knowledge, important bits of knowledge that can influence your research or your study. It's about identifying key theories. It's about identifying key methodologies. It's about findings and gaps in the literature. Okay, if you've identified a gap in literature, it means you've struck gold. You know what I mean? So if you've done that, then you really are, then you can write a paper about it, you can publish it, and you'll probably get paid for that research. Okay, I see that we have NID2 commenting saying I'm. Okay, maybe is the captions on? I just want to make sure it's on. Yes, the transcript is on, so it should be working. I hope that that's fine. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Okay, so if we're looking for credible sources in research, we need to start, questioning the validity of some of the sources, some of the places where we go and we get information from. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys some questions, and if you think it's a credible one, just raise your hand. If you don't think it is, don't do anything. So let me ask you, do you guys think ChatGPT is a credible source of information? Can you reference it in an academic context?
No, you can't reference it because there's no name there. It can't say who wrote that article or what. It's just an information, just a question and answer. I don't know how to reference it.
No, you're right. 100% correct. The other problem with GPT is that it makes up information. You know what I mean? So if you ask it to give you a referenceable source, it will make up the source. It's not a real person. Okay, that's a major problem. Now, I can tell you this with 100% certainty. There is an alternative to ChatGPT, and it's also free to use. And it gives you references to the sources that it tells you where the information comes from. So if you use Copilot, I don't know if you guys know about Copilot. Copilot is Microsoft's version of ChatGPT. It even has ChatGPT in it. It's the foundation of their software plus their version of it. And that's, if you use Copilot, you can get references from the information it's provided. Okay, now, do you guys think Wikipedia is a credible source? Just raise your hand, give me a thumbs up. You can also unmute yourself if you think it is. Okay, Cherise said in the chats, yes, she believes it is. Okay, I would like to point out that it is actually not. Unfortunately, it's not. I'll tell you why. Because Wikipedia is open source, which means anyone can post and publish on there. And in fact, sometimes I spend my free time just editing the information on on Wikipedia. I just go on and I change information. And I'm not changing it to make it all true. Like I change information to make sure that it's inaccurate. Okay. Make, are you saying it's not a credible source? Okay, I thought you were saying I'm wrong. I was gonna say, what have I been doing the last few evenings? But yeah, so Wikipedia is definitely not a trusted source. But what you can do is if you go to Wikipedia, scroll to the bottom of the page, and then you'll see the references they've used on those pages. And you click, if I go to those references, then you'll be fine, because that's probably more credible than what's on the page itself. The problem is with Wikipedia, it's open, it's open to anyone who wants to edit it. So that's a problem because anything that's open sourced can't be trusted. Okay, so now we can use that information to decipher whether, do you guys think LinkedIn is a credible source of information? LinkedIn, do you guys think it's credible? Okay, Charisse, yeah, you've learned. Okay. Okay, great. So LinkedIn is definitely not a credible source because anyone can publish, anyone can post on there. I have referenced LinkedIn before on academic papers, but the reason why I have is because the person who published it is an expert in the field. And publishing from experts in their respective fields is perfectly fine. It's just not okay to take information from someone who's not a reliable source, someone who's not an expert in the discussion they're having. Okay, so I divided the screen to show you which is credible and which isn't. So EBSCOhost is a source of journal articles, so definitely credible. You also have to pay to be a member of their platform, so definitely going to be credible. Google Scholar is great; it's free for general public usage. It gives you journal articles, and most times it's credible. It's you can trust the information being provided because it's by academic researchers. Okay, then we have CFI, which is Corporate Finance Institute. It's a closed source information. They publish everything. Everything they publish is verified, so you can trust it. Investopedia is very much like Corporate Finance Institute, so it's reliable. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange definitely reliable. So then in the middle, yeah, I've put Forbes and Harvard Business Review. And not because they're bad places to get information or articles. Actually, most times the things they provide is really good. But what they often provide is they provide information that's pop culture, and pop culture is very subjective and not always the most reliable source of information. So when you use Forbes, when you use HBR, Harvard Business Review, read the article, make sure that it's shared by an expert, by someone who's got a doctorate or PhD, or they have 10 or more years experience in the field that they're talking about. Then it's great. Then you can use it. But if it's not that, and it's just something that's published by one of their intern writers, then you can't take it because then it's not, And then also you want to look for things that is peer reviewed, and peer reviewed articles we'll talk about a bit more in the next slide. Okay, so platforms like GPT, Wikipedia, YouTube, Facebook, especially Facebook, LinkedIn, all of these are not reliable sources. So I'd highly recommend that you avoid them, stay away from them. And even in your free time, if you see anything that's posted on these platforms, question it. Take everything they say on there with a pinch of salt and maybe a shot of tequila because it is Saturday. Okay, let us keep going. So when we're looking for credibility in sources, so you want to look at authorship. So I've been talking about, look at who wrote it, who said the thing that you're looking at. Okay. And then look at where it's been published. So if it's on Facebook, let's not trust it. Let's find something better. If it's on Corporate Finance Institute, then yeah, then we can use it. It should be fine. Okay. Then look at currency. So information taken, should fall within the space of the 5 years. Anything older than that might not be relevant still, especially because COVID-19 has put this major gap between what is relevant and what's no longer relevant. So think about whether the information you have is relevant. Then look at accuracy. So is it accurate to what you're saying? Is it something you can use? Look at objectivity. So, does it tie into your argument? Does it strengthen your argument? And then also peer reviewed. Make sure that the stuff that you are using as references have been peer reviewed. When something is peer reviewed, it means that I've written something, I provided all these statistics, facts, all this information about a hot topic, and another person who's also an expert and also knows a lot about this industry or the space has come in and said, "Hey, I've read his paper. It's good. I would take that." That's what peer reviewed is. So you want to take those. Okay. All all the journal articles, academic journal articles, are peer reviewed. They can't be published without the peer reviewings. So also a very good place if you want to look for information. Knowing this is very important because you guys will be doing citations on your submissions, okay? And if you want to know how to do a citation, how to use the platform to do it, remember we're using Google Classrooms. It helps you. It's on there. You can do it with the greatest of ease. But yeah, so I put a video on the Google platform that shows you how to do those references. So if you don't know how to do it, just watch the video. It's about 10-minute long video. I do apologize for the length, but I did want to explain it in quite a bit of depth. So I did 3 examples in the video to show you how to do it. Okay. Let us keep going. So then now I want to delve into, why data is important, for business. So remember that data and research provides businesses with a lot of important information. That the first key aspect that it helps us with is it tells us about the customers. So data, helps businesses get insight about how their customers behave. It helps us understand what their preferences are. It tells us what their needs are. If you know how they're behaving, if you know what they're like, and if you know what they need, you really are able to formulate a product, and you're able to provide them with that product or service. Okay. By analyzing customer data, we can really alter a business's behavior to best meet those customers' needs, to give them products or services that they want or that they desire. Okay. The other thing that's very important is when we do product development, doing those product testings, having focus groups come in and try a product. That's very important. That's data coming in again. Okay. The next area is market analysis. So researching market trends, looking at competitor strategies, looking at industry dynamics to allow a business to identify opportunities for growth and potential threats. And I want to tell you guys a little bit of an anecdote. I won't take too long to tell you. It's a very short one. But there was this gentleman I think it was the early 70s. Sorry, I just saw a question by Dimakatsu. Dimakatsu said, do you record? Yes, so Dimakatsu, the classes are recorded. Sorry, you gave me a fright there. I thought I wasn't recording it. But yes, it's definitely being recorded and it will be shared on the Google platform. Okay, so back to the anecdote. So back in I think it was the 60s or 70s, a gentleman by the name of C.W. Dolis bought this maize press. And what he could do is he could put maize into a press, and it would churn out little strips of maize, and then he'd cut it up and he'd deep fry it, and then he'd take his deep fried maize chips and he'd sell them. He started by selling them to one local shop, and then before he knew it, he was selling it to 3 and 4, and it just started, it became bigger and bigger and bigger. And then he had to name the chips, and then he called them Fritos. And now he owns an empire, and they sell things such as the Doritos chips that we love. Sorry, can I just Pearl, can you put your camera off? Thank you. Okay, so yeah, so C.W. Dolis started very small, and one of the key things that made his company a major success was he actually went out and he studied the market, and he went to one of the local shops and he asked if he can watch how the customers buy these goods, and he just observed, and then he made a very important insight. He noticed that there's a missing opportunity for him to sell his chips. So what he did is he went back home and he started making these little stands, for the chips, and he made the stand where you can hook the chips onto the stand. And he went back to all the shops that were selling his chips, and he told them he'd sell it to them for a discounted rate if they'd use the stand and put the stand at the till. And then he noticed that he started selling more chips because people would get to the front of the till and pick one of the chips and put it in their basket and pay for it. What he'd invented, unknowingly invented, was compulsive shopping. Okay, and if you ask me, Carl, how has this impacted shops nowadays? Well, look at the long aisles that you have to wait in before you get to a till. Okay, all of that is because of his curiosity about what was happening in the market space, what was happening in the shops where they buy shops. So now we have a long aisle where they have all these chocolates, gum, batteries, all sorts of things you never thought you needed, but is now there offered to you. And that's done so that you can compulsively shop them. Okay, making compulsive purchases, that's what it's all about. Okay. And that's how data, a little bit of research, can have a major impact on an organization. And as business advisors, we need to look for these niche unique ideas, that we can provide to a customer or client or business to tell them so that they can improve their productivity. Okay. So let me keep going. So then the next area for data is risk management. So it's very important to note that data and risk go hand in hand. And if you use data effectively, you can really preemptively solve risks before they occur or before they happen. And you'll also be able to identify what is known as a positive risk. And yes, positive risks are real things. Sometimes risks can be good for a project or an organization. Sometimes they can provide you with important lessons about what to do going forward. So it's very important to know what are the risks that will negatively hinder or negatively affect a product or service or an organization. And it's very important to know which risks you can actually live with, that will be good for an organization. Okay. Using data, you can really get a feel for what's happening in that space, and you can better manage it. Okay. Then the next one is key performance indicators, and that links to using data to do performance evaluations. So by analyzing performance data, businesses can really identify areas for improvement. So knowing where the employees are falling short and providing them with that information that tells them, hey, this area, yeah, is where you guys were not doing what you're supposed to do. If you alter this behavior, you'll really get an improved result. And that's what we're going for in the space of data in performance evaluations. Okay. So now I'm going to keep going into module 2. So I'm gonna do module 2, and then we'll take a little bit of a break. So module 2 is not too bad, and it's all about identifying problems, problem-solving tools, criteria for good objectives in a business, and then gap analysis methodologies. Okay, so it's very important to note that the first thing we need to do if we want to solve a problem is spend a good amount of time identifying the problem. Okay, this ties into a quote by Albert Einstein, who said that if he wanted to solve a math problem, if he had an hour to solve a math problem, he'd spend 55 minutes figuring out what the problem is, and then spend the last 5 minutes solving the problem. That emphasizes the importance of identifying the problem. Okay. And another quote by what was his? Oh, another quote. I used the quote in the induction, but it was a quote about how if a gentleman wanted to cut a tree down, he would carefully select the tool that he'd use, and he'd spend most of his time sharpening the tool. Okay, so similar notions, but it's very important to note that identifying the problem can really set you on the course of success. If you haven't done this properly, you're really going to waste your time trying to find solutions for problems that are not really there, or you'll spend your time trying to find a solution to a problem that's not really, you're solving a symptom and not the problem. Okay, and this solving the symptom will tie into what I'm going to talk to in the next slide, which is root cause analysis. Okay, so I love the root cause analysis diagram. I love the whole idea and philosophy behind root cause analysis. But what it says is if we don't identify the problems effectively, we're going to solve symptoms of the problem and not the problem itself. So what this means is if I solve this symptom, yeah, the other symptoms will still continue to occur. They'll still exist. Okay. And your main problem will still be there, and the cause behind it will still exist. So yeah, so it's very important that we don't solve symptoms, but we actually solve the cause behind the problem. And that's what RCA is all about. It's about digging deeper until you can find the root cause of a problem, and you can actually go past the point of the problem. Okay, and we don't solve symptoms, but we solve the actual problem. Because if you spend time solving the symptom, you've wasted time. You've wasted precious time. And sometimes in with certain problems, if you don't solve it in time, it will really have a major impact. It will have an impact that is irreparable. And that's what this model is all about. Now, I'm going to show you a very simple example of RCA in action. And it's all about something that we can kind of relate to. I mean, two things that we can relate to. Okay, so on the slide, I have the problem. So the problem is that I ran a red light. Okay. And if you apply the 5 whys principles with 5 whys, which is directly linked to RCA, asking why 5 times until you get to the real cause of the problem, you can do a root cause analysis that way. But yeah, so the problem is that I ran the red light. Okay, why did I run the red light? Well, I was late for work. Okay, why was I late for work? Well, I woke up late. Okay, why did I wake up late? Well, my alarm didn't work. Okay, why didn't my alarm work? Well, the battery was exhausted. Okay, why was the battery exhausted? I forgot to check. Okay, and just by following this process, you're able to really get to the real cause of the problem. And now we've reached the root cause of the problem. We can start thinking about solutions. Okay, solution number one, the easy one: go buy batteries, replace the batteries. But that solution doesn't, it's not a long-term solution. What's going to happen in future when it runs flat again and I miss it? Okay, that's not a real solution. Alternatively, get a digital alarm, one that's plugged in. Okay, not a real solution in South Africa. Okay, because we have load shedding. So if the power cuts, you don't have an alarm. Okay. And the next solution, and probably the smartest one, start using your phone. That would guarantee that you have something even when there is load shedding. And that's a real solution. Okay. If you follow the 5 whys, you'll stop running red lights, and you'll actually really solve the real problem. Okay, so I hope this helps. I hope this gives you an idea. I see that Dimakatsu has been very active in the chat. I like that. I really like that. It says, how do you identify risks? Um, is this process for that? So when it comes to identifying risks, there's an entire module, allocated to risk identification, risk resolution. There's a lot of information on that. So I'm trying to be very cautious to not delve too deep into another territory, but just know that it will come up, in the course of the program. So yeah, right now I'm identifying problems. I'm not identifying risks, although problems can be risks. Okay, there's a strong relationship between the two. I'm just looking at it from the lens of it being a problem and not a risk. Okay, remember that problems are things that have occurred or are occurring currently. Risks could also be things that haven't occurred yet, but we can kind of solve it before it happens. So there's a key distinguishing factor between the two, but they are very similar. Okay, and that will be explored in more detail in another module. Okay. I do have a problem-solving model, yeah, and I like this one. I think this is great. This is the PDCA model, and it says that you want to plan, you want to do, you want to check, and you want to act accordingly. Okay, so we follow the PDCA model. You'll see that in step one, we're planning, and in the planning phase, we're identifying the problem. Okay, so if you applied the 5 whys, or even the RCA model in this, you can really get a real feel for what the real problem is. Okay, and it's perfectly fine to take the models and to link them together and overlap them and use them together. I'd love it when students do that, because it shows that you've applied critical thinking. You can take different models and you can merge them together and overlap them and use them to strengthen a final result. Okay, so but in the first step, we are we're identifying the problem and we're discovering where and why it started. So apply the RCA. You'll really get a feel for where and why it started. And then you start planning for improvement. So you create a plan of action. Okay, and this creating a plan or action plan, this is something that I want you to carry forward. You'll see that it will pop up again and again and again. Okay, then once we've created the plan, we involve everyone and start executing the plan. So we start doing it. This is the D step in the phase. Okay, and then we start checking. So we want to see, what has happened. Where did the plan go well? Where did it not go so well? And then if it worked, you can standardize the procedure or the process, and you can share what you've learned. The problem's been solved. If it didn't work, you'll follow a different course of direction. Okay, you reflect on what can be changed, and then you can restart the cycle. Okay, and this is basically the PDCA model. Okay, and the slides are on the platform for you guys, so you can, come back to it and look at it anytime. I think it's a great model. This graphic comes from a site called Siteware. So I always try to include the sites because it's not my content. It was developed by other people. But it is important that we note that that's where that comes from. Okay, let's keep going. Now we have the SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is a great tool. I'll tell you why it's a great tool. It's a great tool because we can use it in a wide array of contexts. And also, we all know what SWOT analysis is. We've been looking at SWOT analysis for a long, long time. It's been embedded in our thought process since a young age. I think since some of the earlier grades, primary school, they start talking about SWOT analysis. But in essence, it's a framework that is used to evaluate a company's competitive position and to develop a strategic plan, based on that information. Okay, if we look at what the SWOT actually means, so I'll go to the next slide. I have the definitions there. So the S means strengths, the W means weaknesses, the O means opportunities, and the T means threats. Okay, it's very important to note that the strengths and weaknesses would be internal, while the opportunities and threats are external of the organization. Okay. Um, if you think about it from like that perspective, it gives you an idea in terms of what we can deal with internally versus what we need to deal with externally. And if we're able to identify our strengths, we can use our strengths to overcome some of our weaknesses. And we also have to make a key decision as an organization and also as a business advisor. You need to make the decision as to whether a business should keep building on its strengths or whether it should start mitigating its weaknesses so that the weaknesses become strengths. So, it's a very important decision. Then also, when we look at opportunities, we're talking about outside opportunities. Where can we generate income? Where can we make money? And then what are those threats? What are the threats to us generating income? What are the things stopping us from obtaining these opportunities? What are the things that hinder us from getting that? That is very important. It's very important that we know what that is, and that we start tackling and dealing with those threats. Hopefully, you can use your strengths to overcome the weaknesses and the threats. And if you have the right opportunities, the threats are null and void. Okay. Um, Let me take it a step further. I'm just going to go ahead 2 slides. If we use the SWOT analysis to do a gap analysis, we're able to really identify what is helpful to the organization and then what is harmful to that organization. So keep in mind that our strengths and opportunities are always going to be helpful. Our strengths help us capitalize on the opportunities. Opportunities help us generate income, help us generate revenue. They give us a purpose. They give us a reason for being in existence or being operational. Okay, the things that are harmful would be our weaknesses. Weaknesses are areas where we fall short, where we don't produce or provide what we should be. And then also the threats. Threats are competitors. It could be our external factors, environmental factors. It could be VUCA, which are things we'll discuss before we wrap up the session today. But yeah, these are very important. If you use this kind of approach, you can really get an idea in terms of the gaps in an organization, and you can get an idea in terms of what the organization's position is and make strategic decisions to maneuver it to a desirable state or desirable position. Okay, I'm going to go back a few. So it's very important also that an organization uses some sort of criteria to set its objectives. I've noticed that a lot of businesses just set objectives randomly, and what you need to do is use some sort of criteria. So what we've done is we've decided that we should use SMART as the objectives, and we've added a few additional components to account for how the world is changing. So we all know what SMART is at this point. So SMART just means that we use it for goal setting. It just means that it's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's relevant, it's time bound. Okay. The components that I've added to this for objective setting is that it must be aligned. And I wanted to speak to alignment in an organization because it's very important that there is alignment. Now, Carl, what is alignment? Well, alignment is when there is synergy between the departments in an organization. So I'll give an example. At the Information Rims organization, we have several departments. We have a department for coordination of projects. We have the academic department, and then we have the general operations department. Okay, I'm typically the head of academics, and then we have the head of project coordination. I have to work really well with the coordinator and the head of coordination because what she does and what I do has an impact on the project, on the outcome. So if you guys know, you would have sent your documents to Naki. That has an impact on what happens in the project because I roll out the learning part of the project. So we work hand in hand and we have to have synergy. So you'll see that her activities and my activities are interlinked and we kind of move with the different tasks. And we need to work that way to make sure that we achieve the organization goals. So when we're setting objectives for an organization, make sure that it further enhances that synergy. It enhances that alignment. It's not going to be something that separates the departments. Okay. A good example of organizational department separation would be what happened in Apple in the early 90s. So they were working on 2 different projects. They were working on the Lisa computer. I think it was the Lisa 2, and then they were working on the Macintosh. Then they had 2 different departments focusing. And these 2 developmental departments would obviously work on the 2 different projects, but then operations was split between the 2, and it affected their turnover negatively because they were creating a division within the organization. So it's very important that we remain aligned. Okay, the last two I have here is flexibility and agility. Okay, and this is just put in because of the nature of the world we live in. Things are constantly changing, things are constantly moving, altering. So it's very important that we remain flexible to these changes. We remain agile. We don't allow ourselves to get stagnated by a minor industry change or a minor environmental change. Okay, think about how COVID-19 impacted businesses. Businesses had to start adjusting, altering their approaches because it was no longer viable to do things in a face-to-face context. So think about that, and that's why it's very important to make sure that you are flexible and you're agile when setting objectives. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Now, this is where I'm going to talk about the different states in a business. And it's very important we know what the states are because we can use this in our gap analysis. Okay, so the first state I'm going to speak to is the current state, which is this point. The current state is what's happening now. You know, what is the problem? What is the thing we're dealing with? Where are we now? Okay. Then we have the where are we going state. And the where are we going state is the as it will be state. And this is the state where an organization would exist if nothing changes. You know, if we don't alter our path, if we don't have corrective action, corrective measure. Okay, and then the third state we have is our desired state. Okay, and this is the state that we want to be in. It's where we want to go. It's our, you know, it's if we could picture the organization in any kind of condition, this would be that. Okay, then we need to ask ourselves, what do we need to do to get ourselves from where we're going to where we want to be? And that's what this figure's about. The best way to try and do it is to try and use time as the measure. So they used months here, and add some sort of quantifiable metric. Whatever those metrics are, you can decide. It will differ depending on the organization. But it's very important that you understand the states, you know, understanding what the current state is, the desired state, and the as it will be state. This aligns directly with what is called systems thinking. And if you apply systems thinking in this, doing a gap analysis, you can really get an idea or paint a picture of where you're going. And if you can paint a picture of where you're going, you can tell others in the organization, you know, and they can better understand it. It's all about communication of those these different states and where the business is going. If you can communicate your vision effectively, you can get buy-in from others, and that's what I'm kind of alluding to here. Okay, I'm going to keep going with the states and the gap analysis and the action plans. So you'll see that what we need to do is we need to understand the current state, understand the desired state, and build an action plan around, you know, where we want to go and where we are now. And you can use an action plan to bridge the gap between these two different states. Okay, and that's what this slide is all about, using action plans to bridge gaps. Okay, and remember what I said, you're going to be required to do, they call it a business plan. I want you to think of it as an action plan or some sort of organizational strategy plan. Any of those, as long as you provide me with some sort of plan that is linked to an organization and shows actions that they'll take to move between the different states, I'll be happy with your submissions. Okay, I'm going to keep going. So then I have McKinsey's 7S's framework. So the reason why I provided this framework is because it tells us about what we can really change and what is more difficult to change. So if we look at the hard S's, it's strategy, structure, systems. It's very important to note that the strategy, structure, systems are very difficult to change, very difficult to alter. It's difficult to move these around because it has a major impact on the organization. Now, I'm not saying that strategies will never change. They do change, but they don't change often, or they don't change until they've been achieved or obtained. So that's very important to note. And when you change your strategy mid-course, it has major implications, major impacts on an organization. Okay, structure is the same thing. When we restructure, it's very uncomfortable for everyone involved. I'll tell you this honestly. Okay, the Information Rims organization went through a little bit of restructuring last year, and it's been quite a bit. It's been quite painful for a lot of the parties involved, and I feel bad for my role and other people's roles in that. But it's been quite painful. But you know, eventually things normalize and we get into a rhythm of things again. But changing the strategy, structure, systems is very disruptive to an organization. So we try not to change it as much as possible. You try to keep it as consistent as possible. Okay. Then we have the soft S's, and the soft S's is where we can make changes and it wouldn't have too much of an impact. Okay. I mean, when we change skills, it's upskilling. That's what we're talking about, training, training. That always I mean, it does require a little more from those who are going through the going through the training, but it doesn't have major implications for the organization. In fact, it allows for the employees to bring more to the forefront, to bring more to the table. Okay, we can always alter our shared vision. It's not a problem if you discuss it and everyone knows where we're going. Not so bad. We can always alter our style. Styles can change. Organizational cultures can change. That's not a problem. It's perfectly fine. And then staff also can change. It's not a problem. It won't have a major impact on an organization. Okay, I can see that Jerry's asking how can he sign the register on his phone. I believe that if you click the link, it should be fine. It will work on a phone. Jerry, it should be all right. Just click the link. It will take you to another page. You can complete the information there. Okay. Okay, so before we go to module 2.3, I just want to take a little bit of a breather. So for those of us that want to get some tea, that want to get some fresh air, that you want to have a quick cigarette, you're welcome to. I'll set the timer for 10 minutes, and then we can come back and we can wrap up the last module here. I know I've shared a lot of information. So just give me a thumbs up if you're all good with taking a quick break. Okay, Sharice is the first to say yes. She's running for a cup of coffee. Tejo Fatso is giving me that high five. Okay. Marco is also high-fiving me. High five, yeah, great. Temba's happy. Okay. Zona says yes. Taborjo says gives me his blessing. Gives me her blessing. Apologies. Temba says yes. Okay, brilliant. You keep raising your hand. I got you, Temba. Okay, I'm gonna set the timer. Let's go take our break. Okay, Jerry, I'll put the link in the chats for you again. Okay, if you're having trouble with it, even after the session, just drop me a mail. I'll try and assist you. Okay, I'm also going to get myself some coffee. Be right back. NID 2, how can I be of assistance? Okay, I'm going to type in the chats for you, if that's okay. At NID 2. Yeah, I'm just checking to see if you're okay, NID 2. Yeah, I must apologize. I think I might have gone a little too fast. And the transcripts, I hope it's been working. NID2, did you see my chats? Just asking if you're okay. Yes, I do recall that you are deaf. Did you put on the transcript? So if you click on the right hand, so if you click on more, you can open up the transcript and then it will give you the text of what I'm saying. Okay, I'm just going to grab a cup of coffee, and if you still have any questions for me, Nochle, you can just drop it in the chats for me. Okay, so our break is up. Let us keep going. Let us keep the discussion going. Are we all back? Just give me a thumbs up if you're ready to continue. Only 2 people. 2 people. Okay, there we go. We have a few more. Thumbs up here, thumbs up there. Okay, brilliant. I'm going to keep going then. It is Saturday. We still want some of our freedoms, you know. We want to go out and have some fun today. I'm going to lower some hands. Okay. Okay, brilliant. So we're going to talk about the importance of developing business plans, and I'm going to talk about how we can use different departments in the space, you know, to build these plans. And I'll show you guys, you know, there's a lot of content in that space. And then we'll look at the good communication in a business. I am going to focus more on leadership skills, you know, and we'll tie in the good communication into that. And then we'll talk about the roles that departments play in building plans, and we'll look at KPIs and then environmental factors such as VUCA, BANI, and a few others. Okay, so I didn't really go into too much detail on BANI, but VUCA and BANI in essence is almost the same thing, so don't worry too much about that. If you are curious, you're welcome to do a little bit of research on your own. Okay, Bongani, I'm going to put your hand down. I have seen you in other sessions also. You've also been, you must enjoy class and keep coming back. That's good. I like that. Okay, so it's important to note that the business plans, and when I say business plans, I mean the business plan itself and also action plans. They provide us with strategic direction. Okay, they tell us where we're going, what we're trying to do, how we're going to do it. It also gives us a feasibility assessment. So it tells us whether this is really viable and how we came to the idea that this is something we should do. It's a great communication tool. So it's something that we can share with other people in the department. They can read it, they can get an understanding and feel for what's happening. It allows us to allocate resources so we can divvy up resources accordingly. And then it allows us to be adaptable and flexible. You know, if it's documented, we can share it. We can also edit it. We can get input with different tools. You know, there's many areas where we can, you know, we can develop the business plans. I mean, developing a business plan nowadays has been a lot easier than what it used to be. And this is simply because we have tools such as artificial intelligence to assist us with the development of a business plan. Okay, let me keep going. Oh, my voice is going a little. So characters of effective leadership. You'll see that there is, the first thing is that an effective leader will be empathetic. Okay, there's a difference between being empathetic and sympathetic. When you're empathetic, it means that you show understanding. You'll show understanding for another individual situation, but you won't show sympathy. And that's a key line that you have to draw. You can't be sympathetic, because if you're sympathetic, it's you feeling sorry for someone else. And feeling sorry for another individual doesn't change their situation, doesn't make it better, doesn't help them in any way, shape, or form. So rather remain empathetic as an effective leader. Okay, the next one is communication. So being able to block out all the noise barriers which can occur in communication is very important. And that's what effective leadership is. The other thing that effective leaders do well is that they are active listeners. They listen actively. They don't hear what they want to hear. They hear what is being said and they act accordingly. Okay. Then they're very good at making decisions. So leaders that are indecisive are not really leaders, you know, because they put that indecisiveness onto others, and that's not what good leaders do. Leaders know what the direction is, they know what the strategy is, and they know how to direct it forward. So they're decision makers, and that's important. Okay. The next one is resilience. So in the face of obstacles and challenges, effective leaders are resilient. They don't stop going until they get what they want. Okay. Then integrity. Effective leaders have integrity. They're honest. They're transparent. You know, they are who they are. And they carry it on their shoulders. It's that kind of that's what it's important to effective leaders. Okay, and then finally, effective leadership has delegation in it. It's very important as a leader to be able to hand over tasks to other individuals and not to try and micromanage or have everything managed by yourself or doing everything yourself. That's not a good leader. Okay, leaders are people who lead by example, yes, but also hand over the reins at some point so that someone else can do the thing that you're doing so you can focus on other important things. Okay, so yeah, this is just the characteristics of effective leadership. Effective leadership's for business. So the reason why it's important for businesses is that it promotes teamwork, firstly. Okay, if we look at Tuckman's model, if you follow the steps, so Tuckman's model says that when you build a team, you'll go through, I think it was 5 different phases. So one of the key phases was storming. Okay, the storming phase. The storming phase is very disruptive. It means that there'll be a little bit of a power struggle, but at the end of the storming phase, you'll have a good idea in terms of who the leader is, and having that leader can really provide a team with direction. Okay. It cultivates a sense of, it gives you an idea in terms of where you're going. It also adds to organizational culture, so it's very important. And then it motivates staff members. So having people that can look to, people that can lean on, very important. Then also it inspires trust. You remember, if we have a leader that has integrity, that is transparent, that's honest, it will naturally foster a place where trust can be. And then it provides a purpose and direction. Okay, so having leadership is very important in business. It gives us that direction. It's very important as an organization. We know where we're going, and we're not all working on different things that is counterproductive and working against each other. Okay. Now I have this slide. This slide just kind of reiterates what was said in the previous slide, but it says leadership skills for effective leaders. So just as they communicate and connect effectively, they inspire confidence, they demonstrate high emotional intelligence. So this is tying directly to Goldman's model. They build trust, very important. We build trust. They promote healthy failures, and this is the one that wasn't explored previously. But just knowing that it's okay to make mistakes and failing fast, but failing forward, that kind of, I love that expression. I live and die by it. So in my mind, when you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. Just acknowledge that you made the error, fix it, and go forward. Don't hold on to it. I'll tell you this: when I was doing my ethical clearance application for my dissertation, it got resent to me it got resent to me 4 times. I don't know why I said 10. It got resent to me 4 times because they weren't happy with the way I completed the application. And every time I sent it back the same day, resubmitted, waited a week for feedback. Then that kind of approach is very important. Not giving up, not being discouraged by the outcome, but knowing that you have some sense of area that you're trying to go to, and that succeeds the fact that you're getting held back a little. Okay. Expanding common ground, so finding ways to connect people with different backgrounds, different cultures, different beliefs. And I think that South Africa needs this a lot. We need to continue to find ways to find common ground with people. Okay. Common ground for us in this class would be the fact that we're all clearly passionate about learning, because we're here on a Saturday morning, you have to do our BA. We want this qualification. We care about it. We want it. And for that reason also, I want to say that when you guys do the assignments, be proud of the work you submit, because in essence, you're going to get this qualification, and it's going to form part of your portfolio of qualifications, and it will kind of represent you, represent us, and represent what we were able to do, given our context and our scenarios. Okay. They make difficult conversations easy. They manage attention, so they make sure that we remain focused and on target. They empower employees, which is very important, and then they deliver constructive feedback. This will tie back into the communication principle that I was talking about. Remember that as individuals, we have a tendency to be both a bit constructive and destructive, but effective leaders are able to be more constructive than what they are destructive. And we're trying to build people up. We're not trying to destroy them and belittle them. That's not our goal. That's not what we do. As business advisors, it's our responsibility to build organizations and to build people. We're not here to break people down at all. If that's what you want to do, then I don't know. Like you're not going to achieve much, really. Okay, let's keep going. So the role that various departments play in the development of these plans, remember that your exco or your executive leadership or management, they provide us with the key strategy. They give us the direction for the business. Okay. Our marketing team, They give us the market research, they identify the target markets, they develop marketing strategies, and they create promotional campaigns. Okay, so they literally tell us how we're going to get this to the market. They tell us, how we're going to promote it, how we're going to sell it. Okay, then we have our sales team. And the sales team is literally out there to push the product to market. They're literally there to do what the marketing team said they should do. I mean, in essence, they're going to be working hand in hand with the marketing team. Okay. Then we have the operations team, and operations team is typically used to manage the day-to-day activities for business. And these activities are separate from the activities that are, but sorry, I want to say they're separate from the activities that are done to generate income, but they're also a part of it in a weird way. So if day-to-day is not managed, organization will struggle to keep going, because certain things have to happen, basic things, to ensure that we have a working environment that is conducive to productivity. Okay. So basic operations ties into everything, but it might not be the main source of income. That's just what I want to say. How you generate money might be separate from how you maintain day-to-day operations. Okay, but very important because it does play a critical role. Then we have finance. So finance is responsible for the financial aspects of the business. So it could include budgeting, financial forecasting, cash flow management, financial reporting. Okay. The nice thing about this program is you guys will delve deeper into financial management in the next module with Dr. Bennett Hussen. Okay, where you're required to actually apply financial ratios and to better understand an organization's financial health and provide advice based on that advice. It's very practical. And I love it for that reason. But I think you guys will really get a feel for that. And that understanding financial health and making decisions for the organization will tie into this, where we plan for an organization. Okay, understanding the health can really impact how much we have in terms of budgets, which could, as a result, lead to us altering our plan so that we accommodate financial limitations or restrictions. Okay. Then human resource talks to, how we manage people, how we train them. When we roll out a plan, you might require certain expertise, certain skills, and that's where the HR would come to the forefront. And then also HR is very important for keeping employees happy, making sure that, we're not violating policies, that employees are being retained, and also that their performance is being managed. Okay, now let's go into KPIs. I have discussed KPIs a little before, but if you don't know, KPIs should be directly linked to objectives of a business. A KPI is a key performance indicator, and it's often applied to individuals, but can also be applied to an organization. And what it does is it basically tells us what the performance of an organization or an individual or a project or a department was over a specific period of time. And if we can measure performance, it means we can make recommendations for performance improvement. Okay, I have some key components of a KPI. So you'll see here that the first thing is, does it link to the objective of a business? Is it measurable? Does it have a form of measurement? Is it being utilized to optimize the organization's productivity and employees' performance or department's performance? Okay. Then we reiterate the performance thing, but are we using it to improve the performance? Does it directly depict performance, or is it indirectly doing so? It must be a key indicator. So can it tie into financial reporting? Can it tie into staffing reports? Can it be used to evaluate performance? And then the key, most critical component of it is, does it tie back into strategy? Okay, if there isn't a link between the objectives, the strategy, and the KPI, then what your employees are doing will be disconnected from what the organization wants to do. And that would mean that it's null and void, that you're wasting your time. You need to have alignment and synergy with an organization. Okay, let me keep going. So I think, sorry, this is a duplicate slide. My apologies. I think this is the same. Yeah, sorry guys, my bad. That does happen sometimes. Again, human error, my apologies. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about environmental factors, and then we can look at the work and then wrap up for the day. Okay, so it's important to note that we have many different environmental factors. These are some of the general ones. So this will be similar to the ones on the next slide, but you'll see the first one I have here is political environment, which talks about politics. Politics has a major role in most businesses in most countries. It's very important to note that general policies put out by politicians and by leading governments can have an impact on how businesses operate. Okay. Then we have the economic environment. So whether an organization is in a recession or whether it's an economic boom can really set the stage for what's happening and what an organization can do. My apologies about that. I think my computer just had a pop-up. I'm going to put the sound off so that doesn't bother you guys again. Okay. Then we have social, cultural environment. So what is the social culture status of the people working in your organization? Are they getting along or are they disconnected? Are we trying to, find common grounds? Then we have technological environment. So think about how AI is coming in and it's revolutionizing a lot of industries, a lot of spaces. That's what they're referring to. Then we have legal requirements of the legal environment. So these are legislations that are required that an organization has to follow, abide by. Then we look at competitors. So what are the competitors doing? How are they breaking into the market? And then we look at consumers. So what are the customers willing to buy? What are they willing to do for what we're selling? Okay, this is just one model. You'll see the next one is PESTLE. It's a little more organized. It's a little more clearer. But it literally speaks to what I was talking about before. So the P is politics, E is economic, S is social, T is technological, E is environmental, and then L is legal. This is another way of looking at environmental factors. And then I have my own spin, and this is it's like the environmental factors, but it's a lens through which we can look at the world. And it's less obvious than what the previous ones were. But so the one I'm showing you guys is VUCA, okay? So VUCA is an acronym. It's a lens through which we can look at the world. VUCA says that the world is volatile, it's uncertain, it's complex, and then it's ambiguous. Okay, and we can apply VUCA to many things that happen in the world. So let's apply it to COVID-19 to start with. Okay, COVID-19 was volatile because it disrupted the world. It really did. It literally changed the way we were living day-to-day lives. Okay. Then it was also very uncertain. We didn't know it was going to start. We didn't know when it was going to end. We didn't know what levels we were. We didn't know why we were switching between the levels. I mean, they always said it was an increase to cases, but yeah, it was very difficult to pinpoint exact reasons why things were happening. There was a lot of uncertainty. Okay. Then we have complexity. So it was a very complex issue. Even the medical experts were debating about what is the correct methods, the best way to deal with it. And then it was very ambiguous. So when we look at ambiguity, we're talking about two different or several different understandings of the concept. Okay. We can also apply VUCA to load shedding. Okay. Is it volatile? Yes. It disrupts our day-to-day lives. Is it uncertain? Yes. Do we know when load shedding is exactly going to end? No, we don't. I mean, we have ideas, and they have plans, but it's whether those plans are acted on or delivered on, there's not really a true reflection. Is it complex? Yeah, there are many, many different factors at play here. It's not just a political thing. It's also a resource thing. It's the South African context as a whole. There's many things that come to the forefront. It's also the past and current, there's many things. Is it ambiguous? Yes, many people have different ideas or different interpretations of what is the right thing to do, what is the wrong thing to do. Many people have different ideas as to where it started or where the problem became a problem. So yes, it is a VUCA problem. Okay. Now, but the problem with looking at VUCA like this is that it could be a very doom and gloom perspective, a very doom and gloom lens. It's not the greatest way to look at things. So what they've done is they've developed what is called VUCA Prime. And if we look at things through VUCA, you need to also look at through VUCA Prime, which is the positive. The VUCA Prime tells us how to overcome this context or this world. So it says, VUCA Prime says, if you want to overcome a volatile environment, you need to have vision. Okay. VUCA Prime also says, if you want to overcome uncertainty, you must develop understanding. Okay. And then VUCA Prime says, if you want to overcome complexity, you must have clarity. Okay, you must know where you're going, what you're doing, why you're doing it. Okay, you must be transparent. So that's what it's alluding to. Okay, and then VUCA Prime says if you want to overcome ambiguity, you must have agility. Okay, being agile, being able to adjust, amend yourself to meet the requirements of a given scenario. That's what it's alluding to. Okay, And that's basically the VUCA model. You can apply this to many different contexts, and it will give you great insight in terms of what's happening. And it kind of also gives you a key to tackle it. Okay. And that is basically the slides I have for you guys today. So do we have any questions before I go to the actual questions? I see someone is hopping on and off of the sessions. It must be network. Network is always such a problem. Okay, so just give me a thumbs up if we're all good to go and look at some of the questions. Okay, Tejofatso is the first on the button. Charisse is saying yes, thumbs up twice. We'll look at it twice then, that's great. Zona says yes. Zona's looking at it for the second time, I think. Okay, Mamko says yeah. Oh, sorry, it's Marco. It's the double M that confuses me a little. Okay, Temba's high-fiving me. Okay, let's do this. Tebogo says yes. Brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to go look at the questions. Tebogo, just know that your questions are going to be slightly different, eh? Just so that you know. Okay, because I've updated, we've updated material for this. This is more for an online group. Yours is being submitted directly to your lecturer, Nadik. Okay, let me open up the work here. Google Classrooms. Okay, go here. This is not the correct account. So I have a dummy account where I play around with the features, and when you guys have trouble, I try and figure out what's happening through that. I'll show you guys something interesting that I noted was happening. I can show you quickly. It'll take 2 seconds. I created a video about it, so if you missed the video, this would be a great time. So this is my dummy class for the BA. I noted that sometimes, I don't know why it happens. I think it could be because of space on Google Drive. So if it does happen to you, first start by checking the space on your drive. I noted that, let me just unsubmit this. I demonstrated this the other day. But I noted that sometimes you guys would have this happen to you. So you open your work and it says a file Carl Tisha copied for you was removed. And someone also emailed me and said, Carl, you removed my work. And I promise you I didn't. I wasn't even working that day. But when this happens, something has gone wrong. Either Google Drive didn't have enough space to save it and then it removed it, or something happened. So first start by going to check your Google Drive. So if you want to do that, you just click the dots here and you go to your Google Drive. Where is it? It's, yeah, I think I just went past it. Yeah, here it is, Google Drive. So you just click that, and it will tell you how much space you have left. Make sure you have space on the device, on your Google Drive to save the work. And then once you've done that, you come and you click on this button that says make a copy. And then it will replace that folder that went missing. Now, the only problem with this is if you have already edited or worked on your stuff, that means it's gone because it's making your new copy. Okay, but if this happens, just so that you guys know that this is a way to quickly resolve it, you don't even have to drop me an email. So it takes a while to make a copy of it, but it does make the copy. Okay, it doesn't normally take this long. You just check the chats and see what's happening there. Okay, Tejofatso says, okay, something went wrong there. I'll just try again. Sometimes these things don't work the way you want them to. Tejofatso says, hi, Cole, may you please go through the how to overcome VUCA? Okay, so yes, if you want to, there we go, it just worked. Okay, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you just have to redo it a little. It's not a problem. But I'll go through the VUCA thing again before we sign off. Now, let me go to the actual work. I'm going to go through the summative and the workplace project because I think that's that I can do in the time, the time limitations we have. Let me just go here, classwork. Okay, you guys must keep an eye out for the tutorial videos. I'm always adding new ones. And this is the one you must watch for citations, because you need to do 5 citations for the workplace project, for the formative, and for the summative. Okay, and then if you do an attachment, you must add additional ones. Okay, but let me go to the actual work. So I'm going to start with the workplace project. Okay. Oh, and then in the first session, they asked if I can extend the deadline because it's a lot of work. I can do that. And I'm thinking about it, but I can't move the other class. So you guys will have class for module 3 while this is still going to be due after that. So that might happen. Okay. So the first workless project they want you to do is they want you to do a minor research on your organization. You can select any organization you want to do, and you must do a mini research on business resilience and readiness. Okay, and it must link to this little abstract paragraph here. So this just talks about how businesses need to be resilient, and it's important because things can happen. Change is always unplanned and disruptive. Okay. And then it says, please provide recommendations on what the organization needs to do. So my advice to you is to link these two things. So what I would do is I'd have one submission where I have a mini research document, and in my findings, I'll also have recommendations, for what the organization should do. So you can literally just provide one mini research where you tick both of these boxes. Okay, I hope that makes sense. You can deal with both issues in one submission. Okay, then the next one says you're required to do a needs analysis using the attached document. So I removed the attached document because I thought it was very lengthy, very cumbersome. I don't want you guys to be overworking on a needs analysis. What I'd recommend you guys do is you follow that SWOT analysis diagram we have on the slides. And maybe what I'll do is I'll put a document on the platform that has, I'll call it the needs analysis document. You can use that as a template, to do this. I just want a one-page needs analysis. Okay, I don't want it to, that the attachment was like, I think it was 9 pages long or something. It was just too much. I'm not trying to, overdo it, yeah. And I know how big the formative is, so I'm trying to account for that. So the needs analysis must only be a one-pager. It must follow the SWOT analysis figure that I provided you guys with. I mean, you're welcome to use another needs analysis tool or process. You're welcome to. I'm just trying to give you as much guidance so it's easy. But if you want to deviate from that, you're welcome to. I'm not going to mark you down. At the end of the day, I just want to see that there's a business needs analysis. Okay. And remember, you're not marked on these. What I do is I just check to see if it's there, and if it is a needs analysis, then I can give you the marks. Okay. Then it says prepare a business plan, consulting and including inputs of all stakeholders. Provide a copy of this attachment. So this business plan is going to be quite lengthy. I think it would come to about 10 pages that you'd have to do. The business plan doesn't have to be a business plan for starting the business. It could be an action plan. You can, as I said to you before, they call it a business plan in this module, but it often alludes to being a plan of action or an implementation plan. So either or would be okay, as long as you can talk about the current state, the desired state, and where you're going, and you can show strategic alignments, how it links to the departments. All of that is very important in the space, and that would literally link directly to what I presented in the discussion today. Okay. And that's basically the 3 projects you have to do for this module. It's quite a bit, I agree. But it's this kind of work that will add credibility to the qualification. It's, putting in a major amount of effort to get it done is what really makes it worthy of having as a qualification. Okay, now we have module 2, the summative. The summative has quite a few questions, but it's not as bad as the actual formative. But also note that the summative and the formative questions, some of them overlap, some of them are duplicates. So where you can always take answers from the formative and put it into the summative. Okay. So it says define the following terms. What is qualitative research? What is quantitative research? It's 2 marks each. Follow the mark allocations. I've noted that sometimes some of you guys put too much information. If it says 2 marks, I want 2 points. Okay. If you provide too much, like if I get 2 pages on what qualitative research is, I'm going to start minusing marks, because you're violating my assessment principles. So remember, when we mark, I mark according to VARCs, which is your answer valid? Is it accurate? Is it reliable? Is it sufficient? And sufficiency, if you go over sufficient, if you provide too much, you're violating sufficiency. Okay, so then I have to, mark you down. So focus on the mark allocations. This is going to be a very simple answers. Okay, this is a summary So provide a summary of a strategic approach to investigate business problems. So again, it's 6 marks. So give me 6 points on how we can strategically approach the problem of identifying problems in a business. Okay. Then it says describe how data is grouped into logical categories to aid interpretation. So think about it. There you can do statistical groupings, objective groupings, thematical groupings. There's so many different types of groupings we use in data interpretation. Okay. Then it says explain using trends and implications from data. So what kind of trends can we take from data? What kind of implications do we get from data? These are all very important. What does it mean in the context of being a business advisor? Okay. Then it says explain the method of analyzing the current situation. So think about the current state. How do we analyze the current state? And that's for 5 marks. And it says describe the method and scope of analysis of the current situation. So, when the key thing is methodology and the scope. So when we talk about scope, we're going to limit ourselves to just looking at the current context. So it's very important to note in this answer, I want you to say that when we look at the current state, we're only looking at the current state. We're not looking at what it should be, what it would be. We're just looking at the now, okay? And then there are many different methods you can use to look at the now. You can do the 5 whys, you can do root cause analysis. This is a great opportunity to bring in those tools, those problem identifying tools, okay? And you guys can also, you go through the guides, you'll see there are other tools. You go do a little bit of research, you'll see that there are some brilliant problem identification tools out there. I don't have enough time to show you the world, but just know that whatever I've shared with you is just the beginning, I've never professed to know all of it. I just know some of it, and I'm happy to share what I know with you. Then it says outline the role and importance of objectives. Okay, think about that slide where we spoke about SMART objectives. Well, SMART with the additional components. Okay, describe the importance of objectives in an organization. Okay, they're very important. If we don't have objectives, we're without a goal, we're without a purpose. The sense of direction is gone. So it's very important, very, very important. I'm literally giving you some of the answers as I talk about it. Okay. Number 3 says provide reasons for recommendations of methods. So why would we recommend a certain method in a given scenario for closing gaps in a needs analysis. So, this answer is quite wordy. I'm not the biggest fan of the question, how they've worded it. I was trying to update it, but didn't have enough time. It says provide reasons for recommendations of methods and scenarios for closing gaps and needs for verifying recommendations as reasonable, effective, and comprehensive. So just break the question up. Okay, so the first part is we're going to look at reasons for providing a certain recommendation. What kind of reasons would we have to provide the recommendation that we're giving a business? And then also look at whether the recommendation is reasonable, effective, and comprehensive. That should be some sort of metric or measure. How do we ensure that we tick these boxes of reasonability, effectiveness, and comprehensiveness? Okay, if you guys are getting stuck with this question, just know that when I mark it, just because of how it's been worded, I will mark with leniency. I won't be marking strictly. Some of the questions are not worded well. And I'm sure some of you guys, if you've seen the papers I've marked, sometimes the question is not specific enough and your answer is still technically correct. So I award it. I give you the marks. I give you the benefit of the doubt. Okay, I'm not here to knock you or peg you. I'm here to facilitate, to make it as easy as possible, to guide you as much as I can. So when you answer this one, just focus on whether the recommendation is reasonable, effective, and comprehensive, and think about how we would provide recommendations in terms of methods and how method might change according to scenario. Okay, when closing gaps in a gap analysis. Not the best question, I agree. Then it says, number 4, outline the ways to analyze and interpret information. Okay, pretty simple. The next one says explain the different states, the 3 different states, and explain how they're linked to doing a needs analysis. You can see that different states are popping up again and again and again. Okay. Number 5 says explain the link between needs analysis and performance improvement. So link it back to key performance indicators or organizational KPIs. To the easy marks, easy marks. Okay, then it says explain the importance of a business plan. So why these business plans are important. And then 1B says outline and explain organizational systems that are required in a business plan. So just link it to what I had on the slide. So I had the sales team, marketing team, I had Exco on there. So I was literally giving you the answers on the slides. Okay. And in my discussion about these concepts, then it says 2A, describe the meaning of a business plan. What is the meaning behind it? Why do we do business planning? Why do we do any of this? Okay. And then 2B says explain using recognized business planning techniques the way to prepare a business plan. So now we're looking at how to prepare. Again, focus on the mark allocation. It's 5 marks. I'm not looking for an entire 5 pages on how to do this. I just want 5 points, that I can quickly tick off, and add some sort of reference to support what you've said. Okay. And if you feel like you're not hitting the criteria perfectly, you can add an example. Okay. Number 3 says how to manage the business plan in a manner that promotes staff commitment and service quality. Sorry, staff commitment to service quality. So how do we manage it so that we optimize our team to focus on service quality? Now, this is a very specific question because we're trying to look at optimization of service quality. So it's going to link back to quality management measures or tools. And it is, again, only for 4 marks. So you don't have to go over the top in your response. Just give me 4 points. And if you're running short on points, give me an example. Make sure you cite your source. Okay, then 4A says explain environmental changes that might impact on the success of a business plan. Remember, we looked at VUCA. We looked at the environmental factors. We looked at PESTLE. These are all environmental factors that have impacted many business plans or many business plannings. Okay. Then the last question says, provide a suggestion for adapting service performance for a small to large business environment. Okay, so we want to, when you provide suggestions, talk, because it is a small, the answers in the question, small or large, you can tell me what organization you're focusing on. And what I want to see is how does it differ between the two? So when we're dealing with a small business, do you think it would be easier to make changes when it comes to service performance, or do you think the larger business would be easier? I think that the larger business would be more difficult because there's more going on, there's more departments, there's more factors at play. But that's just my opinion, and I'd find something to support what I'm saying. What do you think? What do you, as a business advisor, as you wear that cap, what is your opinion on that topic? Okay. Now, I'm not going to do the formative. I promised the other group that I would I'd develop a video where I cover the formative. I'm hoping to do so by tomorrow. That is my goal, my game plan. If everything goes according to plan, I'll do that. If it doesn't, by latest Monday, it will be up. And I'll create a post on the stream that says, hey, I've covered the formative module 2. I've gone through the questions. You can watch the video. And if you have any further questions, you can reach out to me. But what I want to say also is that the summative comes from the formative. So these questions are very similar to what you'll find. The only thing that differs is volume. So the formative has 30 questions in there. There's a lot of questions. I'd highly recommend that we start as soon as possible. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to Tejofatso's question in the chats. I was asked if I can quickly just cover how we counteract VUCA. How do we overcome VUCA? So what I was saying is if you want to overcome VUCA, you want to deal with volatility, you must have vision. Okay. If you want to deal with uncertainty, you must have understanding. Okay. If you want to deal with complexity, you must have clarity. Okay. Which means we're looking at transparency, having a clear picture of where we're going, clarity. Okay. And if you want to deal with ambiguity, VUCA Prime says you need to have agility. So you need to be flexible, mendable, malleable. You can't be stuck. Okay. And the greatest way to think about agility is think about the world. The world is very dynamic. Nothing is static. Nothing is constant. When I say things are static, it means it's not moving, which is not really true to the world we live in. The world's constantly moving. Things are constantly changing. So what you're looking for is dynamicism, being dynamic. Okay. Are there any other questions, ladies and gentlemen, or can we wrap up the session there for today? Okay, if you're all happy, just give me a thumbs up or give me a heart emoji, send some love. It is Saturday. Okay, Charisse is ready. Charisse, I'll see your submission on Monday, yeah? No pressure. Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so I can see we're getting a lot of responses, a lot of love, a lot of happiness. Okay, so I'm going to end the session off there. And again, as you guys go through this, please, if you get stuck, just say @Carl, my name will pop up, and then I will assist and I'll help you, as you go through the module 2. Okay, Bongani, you give me a thumbs up. Lorraine's give me the fist bump. Bongani, you okay?
Yes, how are you?
All right, and you, sir?
I'm good. No, mine is not related to the class itself. I just needed you guys to forward Southwest Gauteng TVET College with the number of attendees so that we can know who's still on the class and who is not participating. If
Okay.
that can be done in the next coming week, we would
I'll-
really appreciate it.
Okay, so Bongani, I'll speak to my team, and then what we will do is we won't just give you the attendance record, we'll give you submission records, so you know who submitted and who hasn't. I mean, attendance is great. Some of our colleagues haven't been able to make the sessions this week, but they are submitting the work. So I don't want to penalize or punish those who watch the recordings after.
No, it's fine. As long as
Okay,
we
but
have some form of indication as to what is happening, then we'll be okay.
Okay, Bongani, I'm only going to ask for one thing from your side, though, because things are very busy. So if you could just drop me an email so I don't forget. That's all I ask, a little reminding email.
Will do. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Okay, brilliant. Take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I look forward to your submissions, and keep in mind, results will be released or will be done by the next Friday. Okay.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye. Take care. Okay.